users get that experience that though it was created by them, they have a feeling that, yeah, you actually listen to a radio station.
Yeah, that's right. And because even if you make a station on your own, right, and you say, here's 10 artists I really like, or 15 or 20 artists I really like, make me a radio station. It wouldn't be responsible for us to just say, oh, here's 50 songs by all those artists, jumble them up, and that's just a mixed playlist. That's an iPod shuffle, right? I mean, that's not entertainment, right? It is for some people, but it's not radio.
Yeah.
Right? So what we do is we build those same clocks, and we set up a clock to entertain you, right? So we're going to go, we'll come out with a power song, right? You put in an artist or a bunch of artists, we're going to come out with some kind of a hit song right away, so you feel good, right? You don't want to be like, here's all my artists I love, and we play some song you never heard before. You're like, what? This is, what I don't get it.
Yeah.
But so we'll come out with a hit song. We might even come out hit, right away. And then we'll go a little deeper, and we'll come back with a hit, and then we'll go real deep and come back with a hit, right? So that way you keep getting reassured that, yeah, I'm discovering stuff, but I'm not getting left out. Like, I'm not wondering, why aren't you playing the best stuff from these artists? And that goes around an hour. So as we come around an hour of listening, we reset the clock and we start again, as we pick those songs. And that way, as our DJs program on their stations, it helps influence where in the clock it fits, right? So you might have an artist that has, some huge monster hit that plays on all kinds of stations. It's a crossover hit, it's playing on top 40, it's playing R&B, maybe it's playing on hip hop, maybe it's playing on dance, right? It's got a bunch of popularity and a bunch of heat to it.
Yeah.
It's going to play on your station. But it may be that same artist has one cut on their album that's really good, that nobody's really spinning anywhere. But our DJs know that that's a hot song, and they're going to put it in a lighter rotation, but then that'll get pulled into your custom station too. Even if you're like, oh, just pick this artist. That could be your favorite song off that album. You're like, why ain't nobody playing this? And then it pops right up.
Oh, nice.
And so that's the benefit of our DJs programming these songs, is they know where they fit in the rotation. And so even when you build your own station, that gets pulled into that as well, right? We balance it based on how they're programming. And if it hasn't been programmed by a DJ, we still have enough popularity. We have people rating songs constantly, so it'll tell us like, okay, it doesn't fit in any kind of a DJ program. It doesn't fit in one of our genres. Maybe it's a really obscure artist, or maybe there's some local heat to it, but it just hasn't found a way to make it into our stations yet. If enough people are rating it, it'll still pull popularity. It'll still say, okay, you picked an artist that we don't program anywhere, but there's enough to tell us these are the songs that fit in the right categories, and you'll still get the same experience, right? So even all the way down to a super obscure artist, as long as enough people have listened to it and have heard it and are picking it, you'll get that same input, right? And as you rate, the same thing will happen, right? Okay. But yeah, it's that entertainment side. And then we do give people the opportunity, if you go in and edit a station, we have these sliders that you can go in. You say, oh, if you set it to auto, you get our clocks and our setup, and we try and make sure that it's right for you. But you might say, I like just all the hit stuff. I don't want any deep cuts. I want the stuff that's wore out. Right? I'll move it all the way to current. And you say, oh, I'm going to move it all the way to current. I'm going to move the popularity all the way up, and I'm just going to get hit after hit after hit after hit from all these artists. Or maybe the opposite. Maybe like, I just want to hear the real deep stuff. I know these guys have good songs. I'm just not hearing it because they're not popular or whatever. You move them all the way down. You take popularity down. You take. You may even say, I want their old stuff. So I'm going to take from current. I'm going to move it all the way down to classic. And then I'll get like, if I have an artist that released their first album in 1990 and they just released one this year, I can go and say, just play me their classic stuff, and it'll go back. Grab the stuff from the 90s. There's a lot of artists that had great stuff 10 years ago and they're still trying and it's not working. Yeah. So you say, okay, let me move it back. Or the vice versa, maybe their first few albums were terrible, and their current stuff is what you like. Or even, some artists change genres. There you have artists that come out, they're one thing, but now they're something totally different. Yeah.
You say, oh, I'm rock the country.
Yeah, I go rock, I go country, I go hip hop.
They actually rap to rock the country.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'll start with Detroit rap.
You started
trailer
park
rock.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so you'll see that benefit, and that's where I would say, unless every now and then someone will tell me, and there's not a lot I can do about this. There's people like, yeah, I really like it when Garth Brooks plays and then Kiss plays. And I'm like, oh, well, okay. That's hard for me. You have to go make that station then and say, I want Garth Brooks and Kiss.
That's a playlist, really, in the end of the day.
It's just, and we do let people do that. That's where we can go in and you can pick by song. So if you want a crazy radio station that has all kinds of different stuff in it, you say, oh, here's 4 Garth Brooks songs, and here's 4 Kiss songs, and here's Alice Cooper, and here's Tupac, right? It'd be a weird station, but it's whatever you want. You can still do it.
That's very interesting. I mean, I like the concept that you guys have decided to blend, because if you look at all your competitors, you have a situation where your competitors focus on, say Pandora might do tagging of songs and what's popular, and that just comes up.
Yeah.
And Last FM does a very visual experience, which is almost totally different.
Mm.
I like the fact that you guys have gone in and looked at it from the user's perspective, where almost is how radio music has evolved, in the sense that we went from radio, we went to CD players, we went to MP3 players,
Yeah.
but we wanted playlists. But we also want to listen to things that are popular, that are trendy, as well as doing the flow. So you almost giving users that the two different dynamics, where you have a DJ, or you have, like you say, you have DJ directors who cover each genre, and as a user I can still select and place that together. So that's very nice, interesting.
Yeah, and a lot of us, my background is I came from the MP3 space. I worked at a company called Rio. We made the first MP3 players. I went there, started a company called iRiver. We did a bunch of MP3 players there. And a lot of the DNA from our company comes from the MP3 side, but a lot of it comes from the internet radio side. A lot of people from our company came from Music Match. Our co-founder founded Music Match. We have people from Yahoo Internet Radio, and what we've all tried to do over the years at different companies is try and kind of fix this problem. We kind of got ourselves, you mentioned this kind of linear transition where you had like terrestrial radio and then CDs and then the MP3 stuff. And what happened was we kind of pigeonholed ourselves a little bit, because people then got what they were familiar with, right? There was a transition there where we had listened to radio, we'd watched MTV, we bought our CDs, we kind of knew what we liked. And then the MP3s came, like, well, I'll just go get those on MP3s. But then what happened is, that's all you had. Right? So we started to see people, their music taste kind of stalled a little bit, because what they were doing is they'd go hoard everything that they knew, but it's hard to download what you don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm
definitely so they got 80 gigs worth of MP3s on their hard drive, but it's all the stuff they knew what they wanted, right? So unless you're out researching, you're like, okay, what are the top 100 songs? I mean, I know people that would go, I'm going to open Billboard 100 over here, I'm going to open Napster over here, right?
His friend did the same thing.
And I'm like, okay, here's the hot 10 albums, I'm going to go try and get those, right? And that's a lot of work, and not a lot of people were doing that. So what we saw people would do is they'd go buy an iPod, they'd take that 80 gig hard drive, and they'd stuff it all into their iPod, and then that's what they had. 2 years later, same stuff.
And probably listen to maybe 20% of what's on there.
Yeah, and they'd make a few playlists, and then they'd be, it's more often than not, I'll have people say, I said, what's on your iPod? What playlist do you have in there? When did you make that playlist? They're like, oh, last summer. Last summer, 9 months now, you've been listening to the same playlist, right? You go to the gym and work out to the same 40 songs every time.
Every time.
Yeah, and so we kind of hit a weird transition there where it kind of stalled the taste a little bit, right? Yeah. So what we were trying to do is inject that back in without taking it all the way back to where radio is flawed. That's what we were talking about earlier, is that there's parts of radio that are kind of broken. And satellite radio didn't really fix it, they just made more genres. Yeah. But I still get no input, right? If I turn on their station, if I turn in their hip hop station, I don't like it, because this isn't really what I want. I wish it was a little more this and a little less this. And then it's repetitive, and I just feel like this isn't doing it for me. But that's where I go and say, I need to pick a genre that's close to what I like, and that's what we try and offer, and then let you steer it a little bit, right? Like, oh, okay, yeah, this is an artist or whatever. Like, there's some genres I listen to that there's artists that people always put in. I just never felt like they belonged there, and I was like, it doesn't feel right. That artist, but that's just my taste. If you ask somebody what alternative rock is, you get 10 different answers. Some people are like, oh, that's Kings of Leon, and some people will be like, oh, alternative rock is Pearl Jam, or alternative rock is, somebody, whatever. You get all kinds of answers. Some people will pick like the most mainstream artists ever, and you're like, that's not really all rock. But that's what they think it is, and that's what's important, right? So if you say, we had some people, we kind of did some of these tests where we're like, go make we pick a genre, go make an alternative rock station. And you'd have some people, it was all John Mayer and Dave Matthews, and some people it's all Nirvana and Pearl Jam, and some people it's all, Arcade Fire and some of these bands. You're like, this is the problem, right? You can't just say play alt rock. People you're not going to get the right thing.
Personally, I would think that everybody you name, I would think that would be in that list.
And it could be, right? And that could be what you want. And some people are like, oh, that's, I don't want to hear these things. So it's important to have the personal input, but I think it's still also important to have that discovery element. As soon as you shut that discovery element down, it doesn't really, you lose it. You don't get that. You don't get that wow factor where one of these days you listen to radio, some artist comes in there and you're like, hey, this is cool. What is this? And you look and you're like, okay. Maybe on the app you read the bio, you read about it. Like, I like this song. This is cool. I'll tell somebody about it. But on your iPod that doesn't happen because you put all the music in there, right? You don't hear an artist you never heard before because you put them in there. Yeah. So we're trying to freshen it up. We try and use, kind of philosophies of radio and try and keep the best parts and leave the bad parts behind as much we can. Take some of the benefits that playlists and MP3s brought in, which is my input, right? This is what I want to hear, but also mix it with, I still want to learn about new stuff. I still want to hear new artists. I don't want to just hear what I listened to in high school or what I listened to in college, right? Yeah. So it's trying to keep it fresh, and so that's where we cover as many smartphones as we can. We brought a lot of new apps out. We did announce ABC Radio partnership this week, just so we could try and add some news flavor to music if people want it.
Yeah.
But it's an option, right? So you could say, if I have a music station I listen to, you could go in and say turn on news updates, and every hour we'll come in and say here's what's going on, and then 3 minutes later, 4 minutes later, we go back to your music.
That's pretty nice.
So you can turn that on or off, or you could just step into an all news station and just listen to that. Right? So we're trying to add a few more things just so that people get the, people who are used to radio, and some of those things are like, oh, well, radio is kind of a live connection to the world. I want to hear what's kind of going on. Some of our stations even have DJs on them, right? We'll come and say, hey, this is so-and-so artist. This is what's going on. They just launched a new album. Would you think you're going to like it and check it out? They're not saying, call in and ring the cowbell and all the stuff that, terrestrial radio does. But we do try and give some information, right? They're like, oh, here, this is a new band. We just put them in the station. We think they're real hot. We think you're going to like them too. This is their next song. It's off this album, and then the song plays. That's nice. And then what we do is yes, it's still driven by an algorithm, but then we kill that cut. So you don't hear it every single time. Like, oh, I got it. It's they're hearing a new album, whatever. So we play it for you once. Then the next time you listen to that song, it'll just be the song, right? So we try and do some smart things so it feels very much like radio. And again, those are things you can turn on and off if you like. If you don't like those kind of updates, I just want the music, and we do that too.
And I like the whole very much radio entertainment. You're making entertainment. You're not leaving it up to me to decide everything. Give me the input, but you're entertaining me. I really do like that, because I'm one of the people that totally dipped out of radio the second MP3s came around, because I was just tired of the same songs that are playing consistently all the time. But at the same time, I lost the ability to kind of discover new artists. The way I discover anything new now is by going on YouTube. That's about the only way I discover something new. It's like YouTube, or I have MTV Jams on, and the video happens to play. And I'll hear it then, and by then the song's probably old by the time the video comes out. But since I don't listen to the radio very consistently, it's almost like I prefer not to, because then it's new and it doesn't get old to me as quickly as some other people, or some other songs do. But hearing something like Slacker Radio, I'm probably more interested in now than I was beforehand. Internet radio, like I looked at Pandora, second it said internet and it said radio on it, I was like, no. I'm not interested in it at all. But now I'm hearing how really Slacker works, are probably something I'm definitely going to try.
I really think you'd like it, and that's a lot of the things. Sometimes you can't really force a category to change. We usually refer to ourselves as personal radio instead of internet radio, and there's a reason for that, right? Because a lot of times when we think of internet radio, you think of this stream, it's like this, and especially for those of us who were there when the internet kind of shifted that a little bit, because the internet radio wasn't that good. You don't really associate it with being something that's good. You certainly don't associate it with being something that's you, right? It's like somebody's playing for me, and I don't know if it's good. But we look at personal radio as being something different, which is we really are trying to entertain you personally, not a million people with one playlist. And that's, I think, where internet radio suffers from a name perspective and a reputation in the same way that terrestrial and satellite radio do, which is that it's a broadcast, right? It's something that's being pushed to you, and you don't really have an influence on it. Where I think as a personal radio is more about you give as much input as you're willing to give, and we'll try and make you the best possible music experience we can give to you.
Let's see the different devices. Would there be one for the Zoom?
I don't know. We're
Zune HD guys. So
it's not impossible. We know those guys really well. When I was at iRiver, we did a lot of work with those guys. I know the Zoom team guys really well. I would say we'd love to do it. We'd love to find a way to make that happen. I think, I can't say where they are with that. I mean, I don't know if that's something that they really want to do. I think that it would be a good addition to the Zoom. We did it for the Sony Walkman. It's great. We're doing it for the iPod Touch. It'd be a nice addition to the Zoom. Because
I see a lot of similarities, especially in the way they've kind of refreshed their playlist, their auto playlist, their auto DJ, and their mix view are very similar to trying to get you to discover new music, or even listen to some things that are in your catalog. Catalog gets so big that you forget that you've got songs, and then they pull it into your playlist and kind of remind you that you have this.
Yeah, I think there's a lot. Yeah, I mean, I think we would love to find a way to make that work. Any device that has storage and Wi-Fi, we can do cool stuff on. I don't think they've really actively pursued a whole lot of like real app development for it, but it doesn't mean it wouldn't happen sometime.
Yeah, app development is still kind of a little slow because they didn't release the SDK until the actual Zoom was available. We're getting a lot of they're kind of, it's their own apps that you're getting directly from Microsoft. But I do think probably sometime later this year we're going to start seeing independent.
And I mean,
coming.
For us, we'd like to be on as many places as possible. We don't have obviously, right? I mean, it's not like we're saying, oh, we're going to do this and we're not going to do this. It's anything we can actually develop for, make a business case for, we do. Yeah.